This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Forget the frustration of picking commerce platforms when you switch your business to Shopify, the global commerce platform that supercharges your selling wherever you sell. With Shopify, you'll harness the same intuitive features, trusted apps, and powerful analytics used by the world's leading brands. Sign up today for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/tech, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/tech.
Hey guys, welcome to this week's podcast episode, and I've got a really inspiring guest here from the almost next door neighbors, Rick Ornelas, and he's actually got an incredibly inspirational story of a near-death experience leading to a spiritual awakening and creating a global movement to spread positive change. And he's been over 100 podcasts, so he's no stranger to the podcasting world. And I love guests that have a lot of experience. And I'm really happy to have Rick on the show and talk about resiliency and leveling up.
Having me, Christopher. It's a pleasure to be on your show.
Yeah, I know we connected, and I know I've heard your story. So share your story, and then I'm excited to dive into the conversation to inspire the audience.
Well, first off, thank you for asking. My story, I don't see. I know a lot of others are very interested in it. I see it as just part of my journey, part of my life, and it goes back to 2020, and then it'll go beyond that. But in 2020, when the pandemic hit, I found myself getting really anxious and fearful of what the future held, because I lost that illusion of control that we all feel we have on a daily basis. And it was very stressful for me. I'm someone that likes to, have things said, and not having that control caused a lot of anxiety. So I went into a dark place for a short period of time. And then I realized that there was others that were far worse off than I was. There was people that were dying and people that were having much bigger challenges. And so I decided first, I realized that I knew better from coaching others. And then I decided to do what I could to help and empower others. And so I started to write. And I wrote a blog article about using the quarantine as a time to better myself, to connect with others, to express gratitude, to volunteer, to do these things that were in my control. And that was very well received. And then in the writing process, it reminded me of a book that had been in my head for over 20 years. And it was a book that I wanted to write that I never wrote because I always figured I didn't have enough time. And now I was blessed with the gift of time. And so I started to write my book, and went about it very methodically, just writing every afternoon, a few hours a day, committed to about 500, 750 words a day. And maybe about 6 weeks in, my writing changed and my writing flourished. Maybe about 2 months in, my writing flourished. And I felt really spiritually connected, and my writing went from 500 words a day to writing whole chapters over 2,000 words in a couple hours. And I really felt that I was really connected with God or the Holy Spirit, and that the words were just flowing through me, that I was just typing and couldn't type fast enough. And that's where I really felt that God wanted me to get the book out quickly. And so I finished the book in under 3 months, and then got it published in just a few months later, in October of that year, and got it out. And in the time that I was really spiritually connected, I was waking up in all hours of the night, and I was having dreams and visions, and felt that I was being called to do more than write a book. And that's where the idea for I Spark Change was born, that I needed that people would be inspired by my book, and that I needed to do more. So I created I Spark Change in the fall of 2020, and then continued to build it, and I'm still building that to this day.
Yeah, which was really so one, kind of diving into this story and this and I've actually had another guest also write a book about the problems in the world, racism, inequality, all these climate change, corruption, and she wrote it during the pandemic, very similar to how you are describing, kind of like divine or just kind of universe or kind of flowing through. So, one thing that is one thing is talking about is considering the difficult times in 2020, you got a spirit. What advice would you give to someone similar adversity today? How can they have a sense of direction during these challenging times?
It's a great question, Christopher. And it was that same question that I pondered back then. And I would say, and this is advice I've given to people I've coached over the years, the advice is that we always have control over how we respond to something, number one. And number two is what we do because of it. So one is how we respond. So if something happens that you may look at and say, oh, that's bad or negative or unfortunate, well, it's all from by whose perspective, right? And seeing as we both live here in the Houston area, I remember a few years ago when we had that Arctic freeze where we had 8 inches of snow and it was, it was crazy for where we live, right? And the big thing about that was that, yes, it was uncomfortable. And yes, we lost power and we lost water and all these things. That was one of the most fun times I had with my kids because we were out there playing in the snow. We went and took our river tubes and we're sliding down these hills and we made lemons out of lemonade to use an old cliche. And so that's the first part, is that it's a matter of perspective, right? Is what you do or is how you respond and look at it. And then the second part, which really goes hand in hand, is what action do you take after that happens? And so in the pandemic, first I went to that dark place and then I said, no, I'm going to take action and do something from it. Or in this situation, we decided to go have fun and play in the snow. And so it's that action component that, first is how you react to it. And then what do you do because of it, right? How do you respond? And that's where I think a lot of people get lost is they may say, okay, I'm not going to let it get me down, but then they don't do anything. They don't do anything to change their mindset or their situation. And that's what's worked for me and lots of others that I've coached.
Yeah, I really admire that. And especially, 2020 was a dark period for all of us. And even the world today is much crazier. I think just kind of COVID was just kind of the spark and the catalyst. And now we're kind of live with that uncertainty, almost I think for decades now. The other question is this idea of impact initiatives. I Spark Change. You aim to build a community to foster positivity and hope, and describe specific initiative projects that have successfully mobilized this community towards significant impacts.
Well, with iSpark Change, our goal that we're still working on, years later, is to create the world's first social impact social media platform. So a central hub that is a place for individuals, organizations, nonprofits, groups, businesses to all support one another, collaborate, find one another, make the world a better place through their work, through their actions. There's lots of fragmented groups all over the place, right? There's nonprofits, there's groups on Facebook or LinkedIn, there's other types of online groups. There's not one central place that, if you take some of the other social media outlets are out there, it's like a LinkedIn and a dating site for, social impact all mixed in together. And so what we're looking to do is we're building that now. And how we started, the projects we did to start were create a community. So create a community. We started on social media. We started online to create a community. We're somewhere around 30,000 now. A community to connect with people that were looking for something positive, something to make a difference and wanted to be inspired. And so through our social media, we'll have daily inspiration, motivation, motivational content. And we send out our monthly newsletter, and I work with individuals and businesses that are looking to increase that social impact component. And all of those are the ways that we're going about spreading that positive change and making what we're all about a reality.
Yeah, one thing we have a lot of talk about resiliency, and one thing I love to pick brains on is what's wrong with the world today? It's like every time you turn around, there's a school shooting, there's government fraud, corruption, there's climate change, there's inflation, war. It seems like the world is getting worse and worse. What's wrong with is it the media? Is it our perception? Is it just like kind of we're entitled, or is it just kind of, or is the world really getting worse and worse, and kind of outstanding individuals with your work is trying to change that?
I think an argument could be made for all of the things you mentioned, Christopher. I believe it's a few things. I believe it is a matter of perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that our accessibility to information has amplified these atrocities around the world to make them seem like they're commonplace.
Mm-hmm.
The reality of where we are in the world is we are in the most prolific times ever. We have the highest access to information ever in the history of humanity, which fosters a lot of creativity and a lot of expansion of great ideas and growth and collaboration. And the media, as the saying goes in the media, if it bleeds, it leads. So they will share the negative stories, all these atrocities, because our brains are hardwired through evolution to be more in tune with negative information than positive information. So you put all that together, and we have this illusion of, oh my gosh, the world is, coming to an end. And I've even caught myself. My wife showed me just yesterday, she showed me something about there's, like dozens of tornadoes going on in Oklahoma, and it looks very scary. And you say, wow, that's crazy. The fact remains that things like that have always been there. There's always been natural disasters. There's always been, fires, shootings, everything. I think it's just a combination of those things that make it appear so much worse. And that's what we're looking to change. I mean, our goal within 5 years of launching is to have 1 billion people on the platform. And so with 1 billion people on the platform, we feel we can make a dent in having that positive impact on a daily basis.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I was talking to my wife the other day, and I've been doing a lot of thinking. I'm like, what would it be like if you just like, because I spend, I'm in Houston, right? But every time I go to Austin, I feel this very vibe and culture where people are very accepting, and people, question, they're like open, like, civil discourse, civil dialogue. And then anytime I come back, I'm like, oh, this is how, civility is. And I'm like, well, what if I spend more time in like Europe and like kind of, Copenhagen, like, these blue zones and Latin America, what would that do? And just interesting just to, kind of ponder. So the other question is, so you've written a book which we'll put in the links in the show notes. It's on Amazon. It's called 12 Hours of Heaven Lessons. Less than 3 months. What are you trying to get out of that book? And how did it serve you in both personal and professional transformation?
When I wrote the book, it was always just because it had been in my head ever since. It was inspired by a car accident. That's the near-death experience that you spoke of earlier, where to sum it up, over 20 years ago now, I was living in Southern California with my wife and 2 young daughters, and we were driving back from a birthday party in a Southern California freeway in the rain, and I lost control of my vehicle, and we spun across multiple lanes one way and back across multiple lanes the other way, and went up a dirt embankment, and the car completely flipped over and landed back on the wheels. And by witness reports and police reports, we should have been seriously injured or possibly killed, and we didn't have a scratch. And in that time of reflection, that's where I had the idea for 12 Hours of Heaven. Not that I spent time in heaven or anything, just that the idea of, an angel coming down to help in your time of need. And so when I wrote it, my whole goal in writing 12 Hours of Heaven, Lessons for a Better World, was to inspire, give people inspiration and hope in a time of need. And so I didn't write it seeking to gain anything, seeking, anything from it. I wrote it with that intention, and that's still my intention in writing it, is that whoever reads it, that they get it positively impacts them in some way. And then with creating iSpark Change, that's where I felt, okay, this is a springboard to do more work and to impact more people. And so that's what I'm still working on today. And I feel, Christopher, that my personal belief is that it's going to touch the lives that it's meant to touch, and iSpark Change will affect the individuals it's meant to impact and affect. And beyond that, I don't seek to do anything for financial gain or growth. I mean, has creating iSpark Change and writing my book, has it gotten me a lot of interviews and things like that? Sure. That was never my intent when I wrote it.
Yeah, it's kind of like, it reminds me of this ripple effect where it's kind of like sometimes you're again, this is just kind of illusion, but like Noah, he was like inspired to build an ark to kind of save humanity and the planet. And sometimes, you have these divine inspirations to write a book or, make a movie, something, and then somebody serendipitously comes upon it and it like changes their life. They start doing others. So it's kind of reminds me of that. What how future aspirations, and talk about kind of your work and how people can find out more about it, how they can contribute and help and connect with you.
Thank you for asking that, because our big goal is to grow iSpark Change and make more people aware. So anyone can go to isparkchange.com, the letter I, sparkchange.com. They can join our community there. They can follow us we're on every social media platform. We have the most active Instagram and Facebook, anywhere, LinkedIn, TikTok. They can find us on all these platforms. As I said, we have daily inspirational and motivational content, so they can follow us there. And then if they go to the website, they can sign up to or leave their information to receive our newsletter, where we share individuals that are making an impact in humanity. We do social impact spotlights. We have a podcast where we share people that are making the world better. And in that, we'll soon be sharing more information about the next phases of iSpark Change and a beta version of that app and taking it to the next level. So anyone that hears this, that's inspired to join us or learn more about us, then I encourage them to check out those different platforms.
Love that. I really love talking to you, and I love your story is very inspirational. Obviously, the car accident, thank goodness you and your family are alive and well. And for all the audience, be sure to check out the book 12 Hours of Heaven. Will be in the links and show notes. So you can also go to Amazon and give Rick a like and follow on social. And I know he's got to the next interview. And so thanks so much. And thanks for coming on to the podcast.
Thank you very much, Christopher. It's been a pleasure.